right, welcome back from break. I know some people are still trickling in, so we will let them do that. All right, our next session will be led by Ricardo Lafosse. He is the Chief Information Security Officer at Morningstar. Lafosse is responsible for IT risk governance, software and product security, incident management, technical disaster recovery, and determining enterprise-wide security policies and procedures. He serves as a Chicago chapter leader for the Open Web Application Security Project Group. He is also a member of the Society for Information Management Chicago and regularly presents on technology topics at global conferences, including Black Hat, Cloud Identity Summit, and Gartner's Security and Risk Summit. Prior to his current role, Lafosse was Chief Information Security Officer for Cook County Homeland Security and Emergency Management, where he was responsible for providing strategic information security leadership, implementation, and governance for the Information Security Program. Lafosse has more than 14 years of experience in information security for the government, banking, legal, healthcare, and education sectors. Lafosse began his career in information security consulting in finance and manufacturing. Lafosse holds a master's in information assurance from the Iowa State University. He also holds the Certified Information Systems Security Professional and Certified Information Security Manager designations. His topic is a choose-your-own-adventure into modular automation. Please join me in welcoming Ricardo Lafosse to the stage.
Ooh, you guys heard my very light whisper. I like it. Okay. So thank you all for coming. First, I'd like to appreciate all the sponsors and all of you that are here. I know it's 4:30. Most conferences, I skip out and go to the bar at this time. So I really appreciate that from you guys. So choose your own adventure into modular automation. How did I come up with this poor title? I was actually reading an article about Netflix and how they have almost these new choose your own adventures where you can choose the identity of the character, and within the story you can choose to go one way or the other, and then the actions happen. So I just kind of stole the idea while I was reading it, so that's why the title's so poor. All right, a little bit about me. I'm the CISO at Morningstar. I'm 15 years in cybersecurity, government, legal, healthcare, and finance. Who cares? Those are table stakes. What's really interesting, I have a very chaotic household. So at the bottom, I have 5 children, ranging from 1 year to 18 years old. So I know all about chaos engineering and social engineering. I have 4 dogs, 2 cats, 30 fish, a koi pond, and 2 turtles. So I know a lot about running a very large chaotic ecosystem at home, disregarding work life. A little bit about Morningstar. We're a financial research organization. We do a lot of investment management, credit rating, so on and so forth. What we're really known for is our star rating. So we put a rating to stocks, bonds, so on and so forth. And about 2 years ago, we acquired a company called PitchBook. And they do private equity and research on that as well. I like to quote from it. They were referenced in Silicon Valley. That's my little stardom there. Urlacher was jealous that he didn't have access to PitchBook, and everyone else in the class did have access to it. So that's my claim to fame. All right, what are we going to talk about today? 4 main topics: drivers for automation, some use cases, our future state, and then some imparting wisdom. So everyone here is talking about AI this, AI that. I want to talk about getting back to basics. See, my installation failed. I wonder what that is. We're going back to basics. I want to make sure that not all organizations are ready to take on AI all the way. So what I want to talk about are the basics. Oh my God. All right, forget it, it's fine. So I'm going to talk about 3 use cases of how we went from manual processes to automation and where we're going for AI. So everything that's shiny and nice, I would love to have, but we're not at the right maturity stage to adopt AI fully. So I want to walk you through the 3 use cases that will help us further our journey into AI. All right, just a little bit. I got yelled at for having this slide in here, but I still think it's really important to have that clear distinction since we're going to be talking about AI and automation. So let's talk about automation. So automation helps you do repetitive tasks correctly. And I want to highlight correctly because the problem with manual tasks is humans are bound to fail, are bound to have errors, and automation's a simple method to ensure that the same repetitive process is actually done correctly every single time, 24/7. It's driven by manual configuration. Again, you give it a script, a set of instructions, or what we call a recipe, and it just follows it every time. And then the core purpose is for efficiencies, to save time. There isn't a grander scheme for automation. It's get from point A to point B as quickly as possible, the same time every time. AI is bad at simply following orders. So AI is a more cohesive network. It uses external inputs to be able to make a decision. It constantly wants to find patterns, and it requires context to be effective. We'll talk about machine learning and data science behind that, but those are the clear distinctions. Automated machines collect data. AIs actually understand the type of data. So the rationale why we decided to embark the journey for automation and AI. So we had three main factors. I did like the quote that I stole from somewhere, and I forgot to put the reference, so I'll say I stole it. Companies with more than 20% revenue growth year after year have 61% of their operations automated. And companies with flat or negative growth only have 35% automated. So again, it goes back to getting the basics right. So get the automation, and then you can get to the next level. And I swear it's from a legit source. So the three main reasons we're trying to do it is reduce errors. Going back to humans are error prone, and we don't want valuable, expensive human capital doing repetitive tasks. For example, opening up a JIRA ticket saying, yes, this is cool, or no, deny this bug. That's ridiculous. Use people for really complex or more value-added tasks. Again, going back to it, free up your resources. Do you like paying $80 an hour to an architect to mess around in JIRA? No. You like him to, or her, to design complex, efficient products. And then increase agility. Move at the pace of business. Information security for a very long time has been a hindrance for the business. For example, at Morningstar, we're a large, agile workshop. We have about 650 developers. We do sprints every 2 weeks. Being able to have a long-term project for information security is very difficult. I can't have a 2-year roadmap for identity and access management. I'll be 10 years behind the business. So you need to be able to adapt at the speed of business. If developers are pushing code every 2 weeks, I should be able to pivot my entire security posture every 2 weeks. All right, this is very tricky for us. It's determining what to automate. Information security has so many tools and processes. I want to say we run about 15 to 20 disparate tools. Not all of them talk to each other, which is it's pervasive across the organization. So we took a step back and said, how are we going to automate, and what do we automate first? We identified our determinations. So we want to identify what causes 70% of our security engineer workforces. No surprise, ticketing, firewall requests, group change requests. And how do we increase the security posture of our organization without really changing the way we work? And identify simple routine tasks. Going back to automation removes the manual processes. Let's automate that. Let's stop wasting our time there. But there were risks that were brought up from our groupthink, and it included various members from information security, IT ops, legal. We brought everyone in before we embarked on this entire journey. We did not want to do this as a siloed approach. We even brought in product teams, scrum master to see what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So a few items that we might miss something through automation, because it's a big cultural change to get people out of the system and have them do a bigger thought leadership. Upskill challenges. A lot of security operations engineers on our team do not have a development background, do not have an automation background, so they're your run-of-the-mill, like for example, network engineers. So we need to ensure that we had the proper training and approach for it. and auto-remediation of known good files. So what this means is if we have an automated task that could possibly block something, how do we know it's not going to block say a business revenue product and take the system down? So that more of the availability piece. All right, so we set our expectations. This was our roadmap that we came up with. Identify manual processes, move them to automation, and then we can eventually move them to AI. So we had 4 different items at the bottom: agility, process improvement, error remediation, and AI. The first one is we decided to take this in a modular approach, so we chose 3 different items, our processes, to automate within our infrastructure. 70% must be fully automated, otherwise it was thrown out. There was like 15 or 20 different tools and processes that we wanted to do, but we knew at our first attempt, if we don't take small chunks, we're going to fail. And if we fail and we have everyone on board, we're going to lose the trust of our business stakeholders, and it'll be even a larger uphill battle. And we wanted to reduce errors. Again, everything we automate, as long as we automate it right, should be error-free moving forward. And then last is AI, which is having that additional context on top of the automation that we'll talk about towards the end. I really want to highlight this because I am a people person. See? I like people. So I am very keen with my personnel. So I identified the risk of moving in this direction. There's a lot of stigmatism of the more you automate, you're going to automate yourself out of a job. Having those discussions with your team is very important. Just going right into automation without having the bigger picture, have your team be part of that 2 to 3 year roadmap. Let them know what's going on. So they were worried about job displacement, which was the first thing. I'm going to automate myself out of a job. First, there's no job of Jira jockey. Please don't have that be a job. Skills gap, a lot of them were worried because we're also a pretty large AWS shop. Hey, I don't know how to use AWS. If we're going to move all of our stuff to AWS, am I going to be out of a job? So those type of things you need to have upfront discussion with them. Disruptor, some of the stubborn people that I like going to Jira every day, you got to break that mold out. For one individual, we just removed their Jira access. It was fantastic. And then be prepared that for those stubborn people, you may have loss of personnel. People may just move on, which may sound harsh, may be good for the organization. If they're not willing to adapt and change, maybe they're not right for the cultural movement within your organization. All right, we're going to talk about 3 use cases. Identity and access management. We're going to hit on group changes, terminations, and transfers. Cloud, detection, remediation, and tickets. And phishing, evidence collection, detection, and response. Pow, let's do this. All right, identity and access management. For anyone here that has gone through an identity and access management project, they're horrible. You want to die every day of your life when you go work and do an identity and access management project. They're painful, they're horrible, they're complicated. So we broke it down into 3 consumable chunks that we're going to automate. The first one was group changes. So we wanted it to be self-service. There's no reason that any individual, developer, HR, finance should ever have to go to the service desk ever to waste their time to request a group change. We want it to be completely self-service with the proper governance, of course. For example, every group has an owner. Every owner has to approve a group addition or group deletion. So we wanted that governance structure there. Daily terminations. So that automating every time there's a term. We had multiple disparate systems. We have 4 or 5 like core identity systems. So normally there's a ticket that's cut to each one, going back to Jira to make sure that someone actually disables the access and does a closed loop. It's a very manual process. And then transfers. This is a lovely audit finding in every organization I've been. No one does transfers right. So we thought, let's take a very staunch approach. If you transfer, the day of your transfer, you lose all your rights, and you have to request all your new rights. That pisses a lot of people off, so it was awesome. So we added that. So we did a combination of off-the-shelf and custom scripts to glue everything together. So we did have an identity and access management. I'll leave this also product agnostic. You can bother me at the bar if you want to know what it really is. But it was very manual. Everything was a Jira ticket being cut. So we added the integration points. The first one was the group changes. We sent a questionnaire to everyone saying, all right, you are the owner of this group. Who's your backup? And we imported it into the system. So every time you logged in and requested a change, they were automatically sent email to approve or deny. Very simple, clear cut. There was no JIRA ticket associated with that request. What the system actually did to appease and make sure that we had an audit trail, it automatically opened a JIRA ticket, copied the information, plopped it in there. Once it was approved or denied, close it, done. No one ever touched the ticket, but you can go back from an auditing perspective and also from a reporting perspective. The second one was easy, terminations. Super simple. We get a HR field that comes in, goes through it, see who changes, disable, goes to all the systems, disable, cuts the ticket, you're done. And the last one was transfers. Like I said, there was a script that happens when we get that HR change, the delta change, automatically rips out all the permissions, does like a new group change, goes to all the owners, says, is this person new, yes or no, and does all the changes. So we did this over a quarter, and the time savings were astronomical. So 87 days of work effort was saved by automating this. The service desk was freed up. The system engineers were freed up from doing JIRA. I'll keep on picking on JIRA because JIRA is a system that should be fully automated as much as it can. We had a 30% reduction, so we met our goal of manual errors. So previously, when someone requested a group, an individual had to search through Active Directory and hopefully add them to the right group. That removed all of that. A little example of a workflow. There we go. So just a quick little workflow. Employee logs into portal. This is for a group change. Everywhere where there's a person with a little X on it, that means we remove the person out of the workflow. So as you can see, what is it, 2, 4, 6, 7, about half of it is completely automated. There's no users. And where there is user interaction, it's someone logging into portal and hitting a button. And it's the requester. It has nothing to do with any back-end systems. We saw a 65% improvement. And in the quarter, we had a staggering 7,100 group additions, 900 group removals, and 300 rejected changes. These were the numbers we want to see from just doing a simple automation of our current identity and access management process. All right, cloud. Everyone loves cloud. Who doesn't love cloud? So again, going back to AWS Shop, this was a bigger upskill challenge with our security operations team since they were not very familiar with the cloud environment. And the goal here was to be able to have the tools, controls, and processes that we have from a security operations perspective and move it to the cloud. How do you do IR in a serverless environment? It's a learning curve to be able to do this. It's not very easy. How do you do your basic checks and balances? It's not like dropping your endpoint AV and that's your security for the cloud. So we went into 3 different sections: detection, remediation, and tickets. And we used all cloud native tools and orchestration to put it all together. So we have a little example there. Where is it? So this is a Lambda function that checks if an S3 bucket is either public or private. Very simple script. Amazon even has scripts online for you to be able to do this. So it goes to all of our S3 buckets every, say, 5 or 10 minutes, just checks the state. And if it changes its state, immediately it flips it to private. So it's all auto remediation. And if it did that flip, cuts a JIRA ticket, and the JIRA ticket goes to the Amazon account owner. And if they have an excessive number of audit findings, we disable their account. So they can't get into their system. So here's another example. A user, S3 bucket. I don't know why I did the same one. Whatever. I did a close-up. What I really want to highlight here is use the native tools that are available to you. Use the automation. It's not that difficult. You just need to take a step back and be able to apply it to your organization. APIs are your friends. Developers are your friends. Trust me on this one. They want to do the right thing, but they want to do it in the fastest way possible, the least amount of barriers. So one thing I do want to call out here is provide patterns to your developers. If you want them to do encryption, give them a pattern that they can add to a Terraform. Make it very easy for them to consume, and they will use it. Within our cloud improvement for security operations, we moved all, see I put 75%, but we probably moved 95% of all of our security operations in the cloud to a completely automated state. I'm leaving that 5% off because we don't have like a nice centralized dashboard. Everything right now is one-offs. So we have like S3 buckets, AMIs, CloudTrail, encryption. We have a slew of different controls that we automate and also do auto remediation. Some are more trickier than others. Like for example, the AMIs are a little tricky because we want to make sure that you use our standard AMI instead of like a custom standard Amazon AMI. And the only way to do that is to tell developers how to do it right, because there's a large drop down and you just have to click on the right one. So we're working on better ways to automate that as well. But cloud has probably been one of our more successful, quick automation improvements that we've done across the organization. And now when developers have access to AWS, it's all pre-built. They have to do nothing. They can just start building, and the guardrails are already there. Phishing. This is one of my favorite ones as well. Phishing incidents vary in duration and complexity. Those who are incident responders or have to deal with phishing know this can be a 10-minute exercise or a 1-week exercise, depending on who is targeted and how bad it is. So we want to speed up the process of evidence collection, detection, and response. Evidence collection is really seeing the scope of the impact, who was impacted, was there a payload, was there a URL, being able to block it as well. So we started developing phishing playbooks. Now this uses third-party orchestration software that we're currently testing. This is again in progress. We tried to do it in-house. It was a complete disaster. There are too many moving parts for us to be able to do in-house, and that's why there are SOAR technologies out on the market that help you do this a lot easier. But in short, we want to be able to identify when a phishing email comes in, pull all the attributes, cross-check it against our SIM, pull it from every impacted mailbox, send them emails to say, did you put in your password? We identified the 3 of you, put in your password, you have 24 hours or your account gets disabled, so on and so forth. Just automate the whole process. And phishing improvements were significant. So we currently have 1 IR lead. He has a horrible life. And with SOAR, he's been very happy through our current trials outside of doing it in-house. As I put it, difficult to implement without third-party tools. But now he can create playbooks that he can push down to the service desk or the 24/7 operations center that they can run these playbooks. So if there's an after-hours attack, we can delegate the access for them to push the button to do the playbook or the evidence collection, so he can be woken up and have all the evidence ready for him to do the initial forensic research for it. Going back to the personnel, communicate, training, and make this a very positive message. So you want to communicate to your employees what you're doing, do the roadmap with them. Don't do it siloed. You will have distrust, you will have friction with your employees if you don't speak to them about this. Provide training. Don't say, hey, go on YouTube and get AWS training. No one gives a crap. No one's going to do that. Provide them access to Cloud Guru or some sort of training, or bring AWS on site. For us, AWS has been very positive in providing the necessary resources and education paths for our employees to go in the right direction, start learning. But give them the time to do it as well. You can give them as many tools as you want, but if your engineers are doing 50-hour weeks, it's going to be really hard to carve out that time. So you need to make the effort to reprioritize to ensure that your engineers, analysts, so on and so forth, are properly trained. And make it a positive change. Why positive? Because we can have fun with it. So at Morningstar, we are doing the Deep Racer Challenge, which is an AWS game where you have these little remote control cars. It uses SageMaker, which is Amazon's machine learning platform. And it's AI racing that you're gonna start doing competitions across the globe. Amazon's going to run it. So there's a great opportunity internally to create little squads of engineers to learn how machine learning works in a fun gamification perspective. So we're in, I believe, 29 countries. every country's participating. And we don't even have engineers and developers in every country. There's so much positive energy behind this. These are the types of initiatives that you want to push forward, not just from the security perspective, from an operations product perspective, because you want to be inclusive with this, and it helps the organization as a whole. So say developers learning how to make the track faster, maybe that can apply into like a data science for a large credit rating, how to optimize the way we rate our, say, the bonds, for example. So it has multiple applications, and you really want to foster that learning. All right, finally, AI. So we have 4 sections for AI moving forward. This is probably within the next year-ish. There's a few in flight already. The first one being conditional access. So what this means is Office 365 that we're big users of have what's called conditional access. For example, Ricardo can't log in from Russia, North Korea, and Jamaica all at the same time. So being able to do that active posturing of the agent, making sure it's your actual workstation, your geolocation, be able to profile the behavior of an actual user. So that uses AI and ML to be able to do trending across your entire organization. SIM analytics, again, we're trying to get more data out of our data lake. So we're a big Splunk shop. I know I promised we wouldn't call stuff out, but the SIM analytics out of there will be able to provide more threat detection, be able to pull more data from an IR perspective for us. Reduce false positives. So we're a big development shop. Our SaaS solution does provide a lot of false positives, as many SaaS solutions do. Our current SaaS provider, next revision, has machine learning libraries to help reduce those false positives. So it knows across its entire user base, these are common false positives. It's going to help really reduce the time from a scan to what the actual vulnerabilities are. And the last one is endpoint security. So we want to add more visibility and more heuristics to our environment. Right now, we have what's called your traditional antivirus. So we're looking at your next-gen antivirus. And that's really going to give us the visibility of attacks on our network, being able to see lateral traffic across our organization, and be able to integrate that with our entire automation suite. I will give vendors a little plug here. There's multiple vendors outside that do play in this market. There's even a $1 billion company out there that does that. That's in the hallway over there. I'll let you guys find out who it is. But I promise I would at least throw some plugs out there because it is cool technology. It is really helpful, especially for those that are in large Linux shops that have been grossly under-deserved for a long time. Next-Gen AV is really giving us the visibility. We run about a 75% Linux shop as well, and it is very difficult for us to have a good incident response plan, specifically in the cloud, without proper agents and visibility in the environment. Data summary, whatever. This is just a summary of all the 3 slides I put together. 87 days saved on identity access management, cloud automation, 75% efficiency improvement, phishing efficiency improvement. In closing, be realistic. When you're embarking in these challenges, take small chunks. You don't need to boil the ocean every single time. Know what is achievable and make sure you have buy-in outside of security and IT. We had complete buy-in from our product teams, and that's the only way we were successful. On a monthly basis now, about 90% of the product teams, we know what's inside every story every 2 weeks. So you need to have that relationship with your product teams. Do it in modular phases. We did 3 at a time. If all you can handle 1 at a time, do it. It's better than doing nothing. Communicate, transparency, be very clear with your intentions and what you're doing, and baseline it. You cannot know how better you are if you don't know how you are right now. So make sure you have that standard baseline. Use your lovely Jira. Your Jira can give you good data. Just have that data before you embark on your journey, just to make sure that you know how well you've improved. That's how we got those numbers from Jira. Yay! Questions? Gentleman in the back. All right.
So it looks like you were, in terms of cloud security, you were looking at maybe some S3 bucket problems, and then account issues.
Yep.
And that was one use case that you guys identified. I'm sure you have a roadmap for the various
Yes.
automation projects that you want to take on. What were some of the other cloud issues that you ran into?
Sure. Probably the biggest one that I did touch on lightly were the AMIs. So we kept on having issues. So we spent a lot of time building out these perfect AMIs as like the Splunk agent, has all of our configurations, our CIS baseline. But we have developers that we give free access to do whatever they want on their account. And they would just hurry up and automate using a standard AMI. So that was our biggest issue moving forward. We're still in the flux of getting the remediation part. Right now, we can detect when a developer goes in and uses a standard AMI instead of our AMI, and we can send an alert. We can't shut down their AMI yet and force them to use a Morningstar AMI. That's probably our biggest use case right now. Followed by that is ensuring that they never turn off CloudWatch. To make sure that we have the proper logging enabled. It is set at the global layer, at the global level, but there are very, cunning developers that know how to work their way around the appropriate controls. So we're working, again, it's just doing the checks and balances. You don't want to do a hammer approach with developers in the cloud environment or at all. Give them those guardrails. For the most part, they want to do the right thing. They just want to hurry up and get their code out, and we just want to make sure that we have the right guardrails. Young man in the back.
So I'll just keep it short. So you talked a lot about managing down and how important it is to bring the team along and the human aspect of it. What about when you're managing upwards when you're bringing on new AI projects? Have you found ways to position to get more money? Like, do you have any wisdom there you can share managing upward?
Yeah, I would say for the managing upward is having the data behind what you're doing. Again, why we set those baselines is very important to say. The identity and access management was a fantastic approach. We'll say across the board it was $20 an hour per person doing the service desk stuff. Again, that's just a rough number. And you times that by 87 days times 6 people. That's real money you're wasting on manual processes that you could be applying that somewhere else. So have that hard data behind you when you start going into these budget challenges. Because you don't want to come in and say, I need $4 million for next-gen AV. Why? What's that going to do to me? Are you going to offset something? Are you going to do cost savings? So have the numbers behind it. The baselines are very important, and make sure the numbers are right. That's it. Yay!
All right, you
Thank
covered it
you.
all.